Yeah. Uh.
Welcome to the G Squad Chronicles podcast, where we have frank discussions about life, love, and everything in between. My name is Gail, and I'm your host and captain of the G Squad. To my existing tribe, welcome home. And to those new to our group, welcome to the squad. If you like the content that we share, please remember to like the video and click to subscribe to the channel, or hit us up on Instagram to give us your ideas about what you'd like us to discuss on the G Squad. So thank you and welcome. We have a great show for you today. I have a special guest with us today. My son, Stephen, is our guest, and we're going to take a dive into the difficult topic of parenting an LGBTQ child. It's not really difficult, but it's a difficult topic for a lot of parents to have those discussions and be open about it. So we want to just be transparent today and talk to you about what our experience was and how we dealt with it and how we got through some of the challenges. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in. So Stephen, welcome to the G Squad Chronicles.
Hi, happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. Actually, I'm with him because I'm visiting him in Los Angeles. So we are filming our first podcast or taping our first podcast here in Los Angeles. So let's start. I'm going to start with a basic question. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the first night we had that conversation and you told me that you were bisexual? You thought you were bisexual. Do you remember that night? Because I remember it vividly.
Oh, I remember it vividly. I'm not sure you do because the way you just told it is not at all how it happened.
It wasn't this happy-go-lucky. Oh, yay! It wasn't that type of conversation.
And it wasn't necessarily like I told you. You went minding business that wasn't yours.
Yeah, like most parents, when you're kind of wondering what's going on, you don't feel like you're getting
instead of just asking.
No, I didn't feel comfortable asking, so I just went digging and trying to figure out what is going on or what the situation was. Not that but we'll get into that. Okay, so
but yes, I remember
tell your version of what happened that night. I dug through your stuff. I found something that had me alarmed about what was going on. And then I know it wasn't your intention to tell me that night, but it kind of just happened because I was digging through your stuff.
Well, yeah, because
you go ahead and give us your take on.
I mean, that's basically it. You went digging through some stuff that you shouldn't have, found some things that you shouldn't have, and well, listen, I've never been one to, cower when faced with, the need to be forth and forthcoming about who I am. So in that situation, I was like, okay, well, we here now. Let's go ahead and dive in. Because at the end of the day, I always knew that I didn't have a problem with who I was, and that if anyone else did, parents included, that would be their problem to walk through themselves, or with whatever resources that they needed to. But I was never going to make someone else's problem with who I am my own problem. So yeah, I said, okay, well, out with it then.
Okay. Well, but
that was the first time.
Yeah, and it was a little challenging. I'm getting some feedback, but we'll work through that. I know as a parent, and I'm speaking for other parents right now. Are you getting feedback? I'm getting feedback. Okay.
Sounds fine.
Maybe I should lower my volume or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. So as a parent, it's not that I know for a lot of parents, it's very difficult to have this conversation, especially for the first time, because you kind of know, but you don't know, and you're not really sure. And so you're trying to figure out what's going on. Because usually.
Now, let me go ahead and interrupt you.
Right. Can you let me get to my point? Right. So I was going to say, as a mother, a mother is usually the first to know. I don't know how long it takes the father to figure it out, but the mother is usually the first to know. So I kind of knew. That's probably why I was snooping, because I suspected for a long time. And do you remember, like, what grade were you in when this happened? Was that your?
I was a junior. I was 17.
Okay, I was going to say I thought it was your junior year. Okay, and so my version of it is I was snooping, as Stephen said, and I went through his things and found some things that kind of confirmed what I suspected all along. And as a mother, the first time finding this or confirming your suspicions is probably the one of the most difficult experiences that you'll have as a parent of an LGBTQ child, because
LGBTQ.
okay, LGBTQ. Okay. So
AI plus, but we'll deal with that later.
Okay. So, and it's not because I mean, I guess you don't want your child to be LGBTQ initially, because God, you think about how hard life is going to be for them, because you already know how hard life is and how difficult some things can be and some people can be towards LGBTQ. And it's still that way in a lot of cases. It's a lot better than it was. But from my experience growing up, it wasn't as, I guess, liberal or open as it is now. So my immediate thought was, oh my God, how difficult his life's going to be. I can't stand the idea that my child could be tortured or ridiculed or just made to feel less than or inadequate or unwelcome in some setting. So all those things are going through your mind, and you're trying to come to grips with your understanding. You're also worried about, what are people going to think of me? Is this somehow my fault? Is this something I've done? Because my own sister said to me, he wasn't that way. You did that to him. You made him that way. And it sounds crazy now, and I don't think any of us believe that now. But I think people want to find a way to place blame when they're just unsure and unclear about what LGBTQ means and who the person is. And the reality is, it doesn't. I think it took me a minute. I had a very, very dear friend who said to me, because I was so upset, and I called her and I was crying and I explained what I had discovered and the conversation you and I had had, and how upset I was. And her reaction was, and she had a brother who was LGBTQ. And so she grew up with a brother who was LGBTQ. So she said to me, after she let me cry and explain what I had just learned and how devastated I was and how hard life is going to be for you, and she said, just stop it.
Please.
I said, what? She said, just stop it. You're being dramatic. She said, it's not that serious. I mean, it is what he is, but it's not who he is. And you're making more out of it than it has to be. And you need to calm down and stop it. And it wasn't at that moment that it started to click, but I think it was one of the defining moments that helped me to think, wow, yeah, it's not that serious. It's not my life. It's his life. My job is to help him navigate this situation that he's in, not because I can help you because I understand what it means to be LGBTQ, but it was my job to help you navigate in a way that made you feel loved and made you feel like there was nothing you could ever do to change how I felt about you. So that was my challenge. I didn't get it right, I don't think, in the beginning, because
Not even a little bit.
I still remember I was so upset and so alarmed, and I know I absolutely missed the mark, and I did not get it right. And talk about your experience around that, and as the child, how you feel like I missed the mark, because I know I did in those initial months while we were working through it and trying to deal with it. But how did you feel? Did you ever feel like you weren't loved, or that I loved you less once you shared that to me? I hope you never felt that.
I never felt unloved or loved less.
Mm-hmm.
But what it did feel like is that who I was an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I was a very different kind of child. Where, you know, I was the type of child where I could go through a parent disapproving of something that I was doing or a way that I was being, and I wouldn't lose any sleep over that. So while it was difficult to, you know, then go to school the next day and for the days after that and the weeks after that and know that this is the elephant in the room every time I go home, that was difficult. But at the end of the day, that I always knew that your then problem with it was always going to be your problem with it. And I think two important things to let people know. I actually had to have this conversation with you twice, because after the first sort of discussion, you know, I sort of painted it in a way that made you feel like, oh, well, maybe he will never explore that side of himself. And then a couple months later, a friend of mine, his mom, found out that he was also LGBTQ. And she came to me and told me about it. And it was that conversation with her where I was just like, you know what? Because it was a little bit difficult for her as well. And I said, you know what? All of this difficulty, parents not getting it, I can't leave it. I won't live my life like this, with this like up in the air, or this like it's unclear who I am, leaving you hoping that one day I'll definitely end up with a woman, like, and that, yeah, listen, that might happen. But I sat you down again months later. I'll never forget it.
No, you didn't set me down.
I said, come to my room. Yes, I said, come to my room. I summoned you.
You summoned me.
Yes, I did.
And then you said,
I sure did. No, wait, let me tell the story.
here's the deal.
Yeah, literally. I summoned you. I summoned her. And before this, I went to CVS or somewhere, to the magazine aisle, and I picked up a GQ with a very attractive man on the cover. And I picked up, no, it was a Men's Health with an attractive man on the cover. And it was a GQ with Rihanna on the cover. And she came into my room. I sat both magazines down right in her lap. And I said, look, I am attracted to this. And I am attracted to this. It is what it is. I'm not having no more discussions with you about it. If you have an issue with it, take them to your therapist, take them to your prayer closet, but don't bring them to me, because any problem that you have with it from this point on is your problem and your problem alone to deal with and solve. Do you have any questions? That's the type of child.
Yeah, that's exactly how it went. I think that's verbatim how the conversation went.
I'll never forget it.
Whatever.
and me, great, whatever.
Well, that is exactly how that conversation went that night, and that's kind of how it ended. But at that point, I was kind of on the road to trying to not so much understand for him, but understand for me, because it was important. I had never, personally experienced this, so I wasn't sure what this meant for me or what this meant for us. So I knew it was what it was at that point. So I had to get on the road of acceptance, right? So
also, wait, can we also just paint a picture for people? This is 2007. Barack Obama is not yet president.
Right.
LGBTQ marriage is not even in the conversation of being a reality.
Yes.
Like, we've not even had a black man as president of the United States yet when this is happening. So very different cultural context that we were living in.
Right.
Back then.
Yeah. And so